What's going on, football fans? Exciting times as the Hall of Fame game is just tomorrow. Football season's right around the corner, and if you're ready to talk such things, you have come to the right place. I'm Scott Schaus, and this is Turf Talk. Now, as you guys know, we've been going on an 8-part series where I'm breaking down, we're called Division Breakdown, where I go through and I break down each division team by team, and then I talk about their free agents, the draft picks that I like, and then at the end of the episode, I rank each team. Last week, we did the NFC East, where I had the Washington Commanders taking that, and then after today's signing, I only feel even stronger about that prediction that it will come to fruition. As the Washington Commanders signed veteran wide receiver Stephon Diggs to a 1-year deal worth up to $12 million, so that means they are officially out on the headache known as Brandon Ayuk. I guess Instagram isn't for all of us there. And so it's going to give Jaden Daniels another reliable weapon. He's quarterback friendly. He's put up numbers wherever he's been. So I'm excited to see what this Washington team's going to bring this year. Pairing him with Scary Terry and Chiga Conquo, I think this offense is going to be night and day from last year. All right, now I can't express how excited I am to be able to start this next episode, where I'm going to break down the best division in football last year, which was the NFC North. As this division, every team finished with a winning record, and that has only happened twice in the last 70-some odd years, ever since the Super Bowl merger. And it actually just happened a few years ago where the AFC North, where my division finished, where every team finished with a winning record. So this is going to be a fun one to break down, guys, and I can't wait to jump into it. So, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The Detroit Lions, as you guys know, I like to start from the bottom and then work my way up from the standings from last season. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start with the Detroit Lions. So they are coming off a 15-2 season from 2024. This was the hangover year. They finished just 9-8, riddled with injuries. Kirby Joseph, Taylor Decker missed a lot of last year. New offensive coordinator after Ben Johnson left to go to the Chicago Bears. Offense really didn't look much of the same. The 1-2 punch that was David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs was really non-existent. Jahmyr Gibbs still did everything he needed to. He finished with 18 touchdowns, but this is a team that kind of fell under expectations after an exciting 15-2 season from the year before. They fired offensive coordinator John Morton just after one season, and they brought in Drew Petting, hired him as a new offensive coordinator after he spent 3 seasons as the Cardinals offensive coordinator from 2023 to 2025, which, as we all know, the Cardinals offense has just looked spectacular the last few years. But with that being said, obviously Detroit does have a lot more to work with, so they got better ingredients to cook with. I really thought they were going to go get Mike McDaniel as there. I thought Mike McDaniel would have been able to make a really strong case for him to be able to put that offense back together. That he was just one of the best offensive minds in the league. So after that, Morton went back to Broncos as the pass game coordinator under Sean Payton. So he's officially out of Detroit. Their key signings this year, they went and signed veteran center Cade Mays. They got him from the Panthers on a 3-year, $25 million deal. It replaces Frank Ragnow after he retired off last year. And I believe he tried to come back last year, but he didn't pass his physical, so that ended up not working out for them. They brought back backup quarterback Teddy Bridgewater to help reset that room. They also brought in DJ Wanham on a 1-year, $3 million deal. Really just made a bunch of depth pieces because this team just has it all on both sides of the football. They lost DJ Turner to the New York Giants. But the biggest story, well, they also, real quick before we get into the big story on Detroit, they were able to re-sign All-Pro linebacker Jack Campbell, 4-year extension. So they got the lead, the captain of their defense for the foreseeable future. But the big story is Jahmyr Gibbs has been on a hold-in as he has been wanting a new contract, and according to Ian Rappaport, there hasn't really been much talk of contract negotiations over the course of the last few weeks, but maybe with the extension that Bijan Robinson just got yesterday, he got paid 3 years, $51 million guaranteed, up to $75 million with incentives. So, and that's going to kick in. He actually got signed a really team-friendly deal. He's going to finish out his rookie deal, his rookie contract. So his extension won't kick in until the 2028 season. So kudos for Gibbs for, and actually that's how a lot of extensions work. But unless the team is going back and forth with the player, then usually they won't try to work with the player. And from what I've seen in the past. So here's what Dan Campbell kind of had to say about it.
I mean, I think it's certainly not going to hurt. I mean, it's not going to hurt. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm anxious to get Gibbs back out there. Every day that goes by, that's another day that you feel like you miss with him and getting him out there with the guys and him being doing his part. So, but there again, man, it'll get done when it gets done.
And then also, not only is Bijan looking for an extension, they're also worried about. They also need to make sure they lock in other pieces like Sam Laporta and then their safety Brian Branch. So they've got a lot of pieces that they're working with. But the problem is they're like $6.5 million in the hole right now under the cap. So who even knows if they're even going to have money to pay him this year? Somebody's going to have to come up off of something, because right now they're paying. I believe they have Amon-Ra on the books. They got Penei Sewell on the books. Jared Goff. So they got a lot of pieces that they just paid. So there's really not a whole lot of meat on the bone unless somebody's going to have to come up off of something to be able to make that work, or Detroit's just not going to be able to give him that $20 to $25 million range that he's wanting. And he obviously deserves every bit of that. 18 touchdowns last year. He was easily probably the most explosive back in football alone. Probably, again, outside of Bijan. They went heavy on defense in the draft this year. 5 of their 7 picks was on the defense. They for to help Kelvin Shepherd put more of his fingerprints on this defense. Their only offensive picks was wide receiver Kendrick Law out of Kentucky. It was a 5th round pick. They got him at 168, but he tore his ACL post draft, so he's probably going to be out for the better part of the season. And then they also drafted Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson, to replace Taylor Decker after he retired. So to be able to get to go get more depth on in the draft after you lacked and such on the defense last year, that was pretty. It's going to be huge for a team that lost a lot of that lost a lot of really close games, shootouts. They kind of struggled at the beginning of the season, and they just kind of hit their spurts really. So the big question mark is, can Drew Petzing scheme the offense back to elite company without the presence of David Montgomery? Although they did go sign Isaiah Pacheco, but I think he's going to be more into a change of pace role. I think he just hasn't looked the same ever since he got injured a few years ago. So I think that's going to be worth watching. How much is Pacheco going to actually cut into that workload? Is he going to be the in between the tackles guys, or is he just going to be the change of pace back? I personally think it's going to be the latter, but we shall see. Now, on to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this is a team that I'm really interested in watching, because even though they had terrible quarterback play last year, they still won 9 games, and you can honestly say the defense won 7 of those, because JJ McCarthy just looked terrible last year, and that's kind of what led them to go sign Kyler Murray. Now, I think this could be a Sam Darnold type situation, because Kyler Murray, he's got a lot more to work with Justin Jefferson, T.J. Hockenson, Jordan Addison. He's got more weapons to work with, and he's got the offensive-minded genius with Kevin O'Connell. And again, I just mentioned the defense. Brian Flores is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, and he's one of those chefs that could cook with leftovers. You know, I love him as a defensive coordinator. If things ever go south with Zach Taylor, that's the guy that I wanted, and it's who I've said for the past some odd seasons. If that were ever to come about, but I'm gonna digress on that. So after going and getting Kyler Murray, they've kind of had opposite reactions of each other. Kyler kind of looked excited, to be in a new situation to try to help JJ learn, but JJ McCarthy really didn't have the same reaction, and here it is.
JJ, what's your relationship been like with Kyler so far?
It's just like two guys in a classroom. He sits on one side, I sit on the other side, and it's the coach's responsibility to teach us and coach us. So,
is there any awkwardness between you two?
Awkwardness, it's just like the same feeling, when you're in high school and there's another person on the other side of the room. That's just kind of how it is. So I wouldn't say there's any awkwardness.
You sound mad, man. It's not his fault. If you would have played halfway decent or even showed some type of flashes, they wouldn't have brought him in. Kyler might be somewhere in, maybe in Miami or can't think of any other teams off the top of my head. That's not what I'm here to do right now, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Or Kyler maybe would have ended up in Atlanta. So, and Kevin O'Connell really bringing him in, it's kind of doubling down on his own scheme with a dual threat quarterback. Murray fits what Kevin O'Connell wants to do, and it's kind of because JJ McCarthy's got a little bit of athleticism to it, but he's no Kyler, and clearly he can't throw the rock like Kyler can. So I like a Kyler Murray bounce back season. But besides that, they went and got Juwan Jennings, a 1-year deal, $8 million. That's worth up to $13 million. So they're going to have him in the slot. So again, more weapons. I like a Kyler bounce back season. They brought back Carson Wentz for QB depth. Aaron Jones was able to knock off $4 million off of his contract. They restructured his deal, so it's looking like he's going to wrap up his career as a Viking. Again, they just really went heavy on defense. They went and got James Pierre from Steelers, 2 years, $8.5 million. Tavier Thomas, they re-signed him, 2 years, $4.6 million. They went and got a new punter with Johnny Hecker, 1-year deal. Eric Wilson, they gave him a 3-year, $22.5 million extension, $12.5 guaranteed. They also re-signed. They put a restricted free agent tender on linebacker Yvonne Pierce. Harrison Smith, key losses would have been Harrison Smith. He was released, 14-year legend, he was the face of the Vikings defense for years. Ty Chandler left. I never cared much for him. I never really bought even to the hype when I think Dalvin Cook got hurt. I never bought into the Ty Chandler hype. Never really was a big fan. They lost Jalen Naylor. He went to the Raiders, 3 years, $35 million. Jonathan Allen, he came down. He came on down to the Queen City to come play with Joe Burrow. I lost Jonathan Hargrave. He was released, and that was an interdivision loss. So, and that's going to help a Packers defense that struggle without Micah Parsons, and who they're probably going to be without with it come the beginning of the season. And not even that, they signed him within an hour of being released. 2 years, $23 million deal. Because he was cut. He wasn't a true unrestricted free agent. So within the hour, he was already on the other side of the division. The draft was all right. They didn't really do a whole lot with that. I did like the linebacker out of Cincinnati that they got, Jake Golday. I think that's going to bring some more another fire to an already nice defense. Really, besides that, they went heavy on the defense. They don't really have a whole lot that need on offense. They went and got running back Damon Claiborne, which, unless injuries happen, I don't really have a whole lot of hopes out of that. He was inefficient in college, and I just don't really see that that getting any better. If you're inefficient at the college level, I don't really see you being able to turn that tape over. He can't hit the holes. He can't read the blocks. He only averaged like three something yards a carry. So, but overall, the QB battle is what's going to be surrounding this team, and I think it's clearly going to be Kyler. The only way I see JJ McCarthy getting that job is if Kyler hurts himself. It's the only scenario, and then even then, like, do you really roll JJ McCarthy out there? Just keep slamming your head up against the wall, or do you throw Carson Wentz out there, who at least is going to be able to make some type of magic happen? Because anything was better than that. You can only get worse after what you showed me last year. Alrighty, now we're gonna go mosey on down to Cheesetown for the Green Bay Packers, a team that finished 9-7-1 with the one tie being to the Dallas Cowboys, ironically, and that's ironic because that's where they got Micah Parsons from. Traded for Micah Parsons on August 28th of 2025 last year, and they sent over 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark, and then they made him the highest non-paid quarterback in NFL history, and he was an immediate all-pro impact all the way up until he tore his ACL in Week 15. As I mentioned when I broke down the NFC East the other day, he is the first player since they started recording sacks as an official stat, the first player in NFL history to have at least 12.5 sacks through his first 5 seasons. And he did that in just 15 games. So he had 3 games to spare. I'm sorry, 14 games. 14 games, 13 starts before tearing his ACL. And he had, he still had 3 games to spare up until that point. So again, first team All-Pro, third time in 5 years. He was a huge part on that defense, really the anchor of it. And then they had the Rashawn Gary fallout. Rashawn Gary, he was sackless up in his final 7 games, even with Parsons still healthy in that stretch. And the Packers traded Rashawn Gary to the Cowboys in 2020 off March 9th. So he got sent back. So obviously Packers and Cowboys love doing a lot of trading back and forth with each other. So although after having a promising kind of up and down season, again injuries, I personally think Packers offense has peaked unless somebody steps up, unless like a Matthew Golden can step up. I don't really see this team getting any better. As the Packers lost their last final games after this injury, the team, it just didn't get any better, and they ended up losing in the wild card to the Bears. And their offense really didn't even get any a whole lot better. The only thing that happened, they lost Emmanuel Wilson, then just for turning around for Josh Jacobs just in time for him to beat on his girlfriend. So I don't see this getting any better. They had the worst PFF free agency grade this year. They went and got Benjamin St. Just from the Commanders. He couldn't cover this division, let alone a wide receiver 1. Outside of that, key re-signings, they brought back guard Sean Rhine, 3 years, $33 million with $11 million signing bonus. Defensive D-tackle Devontae Wyatt, contract extension. Key losses, they lost Malik Willis, Romeo Doubs. So they lost some pieces, but I just think this is just a mid team overall. I just think Matt LaFleur has been kind of at least been making it look decent. I think Jordan, like I said, Jordan Love has peaked. I just don't see anything getting better. I thought if he was gonna, do something, it would at least been last year. I thought Jordan Love could have potentially had an MVP season after the Matthew Golden draft, but nothing. They didn't use him. They didn't use him like he should have. He didn't. I just don't see a whole lot of this Packers team to be anything, to be really much of anything. They didn't have a first round pick last year. They traded that one to the Cowboys. They drafted Brandon Sisse from South Carolina, another team that just went heavy on defense. And especially after Matt LaFleur going to year 8, and then they went and hired Jonathan Gannon, which I think that might be able to help. Javon Hargrave might have a bounce back season because he actually had his best season under this defensive coordinator back with the Eagles. But with that being said, again, I don't see this team really doing a whole lot this year, unless Jordan Love can stay healthy and prove me wrong.
And to be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
And now we get on to the fun part, to the fun stuff. This is what I came here to cover for. The Bears. So, after having a up and down rookie season, Caleb Williams finally got a proven head coach now, but finally got the head coach that could bring out the best in him. And he went and he did so after being sacked 68 times in his rookie year. He bounced back, having 3,500 yards. He was just, I think, 40-something yards short of being the first Bears 4,000-yard passer, 3 touchdowns away from being the Bears' first 30-touchdown passer. So Bears fans have every bit of reason to be excited as any NFL fan base coming into this season. I think year 3 is going to be a huge year for this offense. I'm seeing a lot of the same slowly getting better year by year that I've seen when Ben Johnson had his crew in Detroit when he had a young Amon-Ra, Gibbs, J-Mo, and then they just, I think this is going to be the best Bears offense that we have ever seen as in the history of this franchise. They've been very heavy defensive oriented, so Bears fans have never really gotten to see an explosive offense like this. So I am excited to watch this team just as much as any Bears fan as out there. I've rooted for Caleb for day one. I've tried to, even after his rookie season, he really didn't. They didn't really do much for him. Matt LaFleur was fired halfway through the season, and there was just no structure. No accountability. Even you could see it in all of his press conferences. Tyreek Stevenson's out there, arguing with a fan, and the guy that his assignment ended up catching a Hail Mary pass. So even then there was just no accountability. Ben Johnson, that's the only thing he did. I remember him even saying coming into camp that Caleb wasn't even guaranteed to be the starter, which we all knew better, but it was just that mentality that you got to bring to be able to light a fire under a young quarterback to be able to really to get through to him, and we saw it. They were only a few plays away from knocking out the Rams in the playoffs. Just fourth quarter comeback after fourth quarter comeback, and I expect a lot of these games to not be. I don't think the Bears are going to be in a situation in as many situations where they need to have fourth quarter comebacks. Kyle Monangai had rushed for 783 yards, only offense, and they were the only offense in the NFL that had 2 750-yard rushers. After DeAndre Swift rushed for 1,087 yards, 9 touchdowns. Monangai, again, he rushed for 783 yards. So this is Ben Johnson. He's literally building the script that he took the script from Detroit and took it to Chicago. The Jedrick Willis signing, and then plus the Drew Dowman retirement. Them going and getting Jedrick Willis, that was huge. Even though it was a 1 year, $1.2 million deal for depth, but I like Jedrick Willis to be able to come out and bounce back. If given the opportunity. Braxton, they also brought back Braxton Jones on a 1 year for up to $5 million. But the big story is that they just paid their All-Pro offensive tackle Darnell Wright. They threw the bag at him as he was paid, and he got 4 years, $116 million with 93 of that guaranteed. So they got their offense pretty much locked in that they won. Every skilled player and guy that you would like to have is on the rookie deal. Luther Burden is expected to take the next step after he showed flashes that he could be a wide receiver 1 deep threat. Rome Odunze too. If Rome can stay healthy, I think they're gonna have a sneaky good wide receiver tandem, and plus who I think is gonna finish as the best tight end in the National Football this year, tight end 1, Colston Loveland. Just at the end of the season, he looked unguardable, and I love it. I'm here for it, man. I am here for it. And speaking of which, they was able to ship. DJ Moore was traded to the Bills as a division rearranger. That's going to help clear out some space, as they didn't. I don't think they really had a place for DJ Moore in the offense. He was lining up in the backfield a lot. Like I said, there just was no place for him in this offense, and I think Ben Johnson, it just wasn't a fit for what he wanted to do. So, but I think that's going to be a trade that worked out for both parties. Is DJ Moore, he's going to be able to. He's playing with the best quarterback that he's played with, which is Josh Allen. But we'll get into that one probably on next week's episode when we start on the AFC. Key signings heavy on the defensive side of the ball for Dennis Allen, second-year defensive coordinator. They went and grabbed safety Kobe Bryant, 3 years, $40 million, with 25 of that guaranteed. Linebacker Devin Bush, 3 years, $30 million. They went and got Neville Gilmore, 2 years, $12 million from the Colts. Contavious Street, $1.48 million, and he actually was with Dennis Allen under the Saints when he was there. So a guy that's already going to be familiar with the scheme. They went and grabbed Khalif Raymond, an interdivision signing, 1.1 year for $3.5 million. Case Keenum, they brought Case Keenum back on a 2-year, $5.5 million to bring him in to help as backup, probably play backup behind Tyson Bagent. They lost. They did lose Kevin Byard to the Patriots. He went to New England on a 1-year, $7 million deal. Tremaine Edmonds left. He was released to save $15 million in cap, and he went and signed with the Giants to go be under John Harbaugh to help get that defense better. And again, I like the pick that they got at which was actually the first round pick, was Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. That was one of the steals of the draft that I think they got outside of Reuben Bain for him falling that late to the 15th pick. But getting one of the best safeties in the draft, if not the best, at pick 25, you really couldn't ask for too much on with a secondary that was injured a lot, that missed their CB1 with Jalen Johnson. He missed a bunch of time last year. Notable context coming out of here, Ben Johnson again. This is going to be it's year 2. Same offensive line for the most part outside of their center. Drew Dowman retired, but then they went and got vet center Garrett Bradbury to fill that void. So I like this offense for the most part. These guys are going to have a lot of the same. They're going to have the same calls, the same. What's the word I'm looking at? The same wording. So I expect Caleb Williams to pop off to a Pro Bowl. I'm not saying he's going to be MVP caliber, but I think he's definitely going to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback coming this year. And then you really got to give all the praise to Ryan Poles, man, because Poles really. I will say this: at times it did look like he wasn't the brightest bulb in the box, but I do you got to love what he's done after trading that number 1 pick to the Panthers and just overhauling this team. And alrighty, now it's going to get down to the fun part. Now I am going to rank the teams. And starting with number 4, who is going to finish last in the NFC North, the best division in football? It's going to be the Green Bay Packers. As I said, we don't know how Josh Jacobs is going to what Josh Jacobs is going to be like, especially after outside drama that he's got going on. I just could see this Packers offense spiraling out of control real quick. Micah Parsons isn't going to be. I don't think he's going to be ready for Week 1. So give me the Green Bay Packers to finish last in this division. And then at number 3, give me the Detroit Lions to finish number 3. Now, with that being said, this could still be a 9-10 win team, and that's finishing 3rd. So, again, this is going to be a tough division. Very well could be 3 out of the 7 teams that make the NFC playoffs could come out of this division. So give me the Detroit Lions to finish third in this division. For second place in this division, Skull. Give me the Minnesota Vikings to finish second in this division. The addition of Kyler Murray, I think Justin Jefferson is going to bounce back to that all-pro form. As Kyler Murray, he might be undersized, but anybody that actually knows a thing or two knows he has a cannon for a little guy, and he likes to sling it. So give me the Minnesota Vikings. And on top of that, with just average quarterback play, this team would have been a playoff team last year. Like I said, their defense won 7 out of their 9 games. So give me the Minnesota Vikings to finish second in this division. So with that being said, for back-to-back winners of the NFC North, give me the Caleb Williams, I guess it'd be the Indiana Bears, wherever the hell you guys are moving, the Indiana Bears to finish. Man, that sounds weird to say. We're just going to stick with the Bears. You guys don't have an official city. It's just the Bears for me. So the Bears, Ben Johnson is going to lead this team back to the promised land known as the playoffs. I think they're going to take the next step up, and I think it's going to be a fun football team to watch this year. So tell me what you think. I love opinions. I love arguments. Don't forget to hit that follow button. Thank you guys, and hey, I hope we enjoy some football tomorrow night, even though it's only the Hall of Fame game. But hey, after tomorrow, this is the last Sunday until February with no football. Hallelujah.